Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Weichelt with the MORE Listings Mastermind. I'm a certified success coach, and we meet every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. You can go to morenowlistings.com. That's morenowlistings.com. Reach us every single week. I want to thank everybody that's on here. We had a good conversation before we got to recording, and we've got some really, really awesome stuff lined up for you today. So let's get right into the presentation. Who am I? My name is Robert Weichelt. I'm the host of the MORE Listings Mastermind, and I've been in the business since 1986. For those of you doing the math, that's 40 years in the real estate game. And I see Ben just about falling out of his chair because he can relate. Since 1986, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of sellers and countless agents achieve success in every type of market. I like to call it the up, downs, and all arounds. Real estate market is a cyclical business, and it's an interesting, fun ride if you can hold on. As a broker, trainer, mentor, my mission is very simple, guys. I want to empower others to grow, win, and lead with purpose. I want to help agents grow their business, but I'm really interested in helping agents that want to grow their now business as they're preparing for their future business. Let me give you an example. Now business, FSBOs, they have their hands up. Expired, they already shown the dedication that it takes to list their home for 6 months and didn't sell, usually because of price. But FSBOs and expires, they have their hands up. Pre-foreclosures, most oftentimes, they don't want to sell. But a lot of times they don't have the opinion. They don't have that ability to keep their home. We want to make sure that we're reaching out to them. So FSBO, expired, and pre-foreclosure are the lowest hanging fruit on the seller tree. We need to reach out to them. Future business, if you're working in the pre-foreclosure space, you need to know that you're getting set up and positioning yourself to work in the post REO space, working with REO and distressed properties. So those are a lot of the things we're going to talk about today. We help agents just like you grow their business. If you want to take a look under the hood and find out what's going on in your business, whether it be working with now business or future business, I encourage you to set up a time. Hit the QR code. It'll go right to my calendar link, and we'll schedule a time. Tell me exactly what we'd like to cover, and then we'll make that happen. So with that said, let's get started. Prospecting is the oxygen of selling. Let me repeat that. Prospecting is the oxygen of selling. Without it, you'll suffocate. So if we're not prospecting, we're not growing. Our business is dying. So we need to prospect. So we're a big fan of prospecting. I get emails from one of the greatest coaches out there, Tom Ferry, all the time. And I hope if you don't subscribe to Tom Ferry's teachings, you should do that. Here's an interesting stat, because numbers don't lie, guys. Check this out. 78% of sellers list with the first agent who calls. Doesn't say the best agent, doesn't say the one with the best marketing plan. It's the first one that calls. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because if you just pick up the phone and start having conversations with sellers, you will be ahead of the game. Let that sink in. Here's some other things. I need you to write this down. Take the old proverbial pen and paper out. Take a screenshot. These are the 5 habits that you're going to need to grow your business starting today. Number 1, lead generation. If we're not lead generating, we're not making any money. No exceptions. We need to spend 90 minutes a day on focused prospecting. Put everything away and focus on your prospecting. The reason why you need to do at least 90 minutes a day is because you need the momentum. You need the momentum. Number 2, track and measure your numbers. You need to track and measure. What gets measured gets improved. So track and measure your numbers. Number 3, set appointments daily, guys. If a day without a seller or buyer appointment should be a red flag. Think about that. Number 4, follow up like a pro. You've heard it many times, I'm sure. Fortune is in the follow-up. And number 5, sharpen your skills, role play, go through studying your scripts and find out who you're working with and targeting, and make sure you're at the top of your game. So with that said, I want to talk about a few things before we get into our presentation, because we've got a great guest lineup, guys. Is your business efficient and effective? What I mean by that, are you just running out to meet with sellers or buyers or investors? Or are you meeting them on Zoom. I have not taken an in-person listing since March of 2020. Every single one of my listings are all done via Zoom since that time. And I take a lot of listings. Those of you that know me, we do a lot of business. We drive traffic. We're prospecting. I taught my daughter how to start prospecting. I have 7 appointments I'm looking at right here that I need to call. 7 sellers that want to sell their home based on the scripts that she's using. My point in telling you that anyone can do it. My daughter, God love her, she's a hairdresser. She doesn't know anything about real estate. I sat her down, told her who to call, what to say, and how to schedule the appointment. That's it. Agents overthink it. We need to not do that. So make your business efficient and effective. Here's another question for you. Talk to me about your open house traffic. Are you driving massive traffic? For example, this is one of our partners, 884 people through the doors. Yes, 880 people, 84. It's so big, I can't even say it. We're averaging between 300 and 400 average in that range to all of our open houses. We have a strategy that we're doing that because at the end of the day, open houses, that's what the only thing that matters is traffic. Our record, one of our team members out of Rancho Cucamonga had over 1,200 people through the doors. Now, that was chaos. I'd rather have the 300 to 400, but can you imagine that kind of traffic? More seller opportunities, more buyer opportunities. Only one person gets the home. Think about it. Are you driving massive traffic? Are you calling the right leads, the high conversion sellers, the FSBO sellers that want to sell, expireds? They tried to sell, it didn't work. And the pre-foreclosure, I'm telling you, this is the absolute lowest hanging fruit. Carl will put in the chat box, and it'll be in the comments for those listening to this on Spotify. I'm telling you what, My Plus Leads, I like My Plus Leads. There's a Land Voice, Red X, there's a bunch of them. But the best one is the one you're going to use. Just like a CRM. Get on the phone, get on the text, and start hammering these folks because they want to hear from you. Do you have the tools to succeed in terms of cash offers? I'm telling you what, if you don't have a cash offer solution, you're going to eliminate yourself from a good amount of sellers that think they want a cash offer until they actually see the cash offer. The cash offer is just to have that conversation, to stay in the conversation with that seller that wants a cash lead or thinks they want a cash seller. When they get that cash offer, they look at it and go, wow, this is terrible. 89% of sellers look at that and go, this is not something I'm willing to take. Do you have the ability to transfer them to a better way? Carlo put the chat box. I list cash offers is fantastic. We have an online offers platform that we're working with for FSBOs, expireds, and pre-foreclosure. It's because, guys, listen, speed, efficiency, and maximum profit are no longer non-negotiables, right? That is the way to go. You need transparent offers, transparent compensation to be able to get that highest and best price for your sellers. So if you want more information, you can certainly go there. So I'm almost off my soapbox. One last thing. Are you prospecting? If you are you tracking and measuring your numbers? I don't care whether you do a CRM like Sisu, which we have access to, or you're keeping track on the bar napkin from happy hour. Just make sure you're tracking and measuring your numbers. Success leaves clues, guys. And the last thing, speaking of success, are you celebrating your successes? Are you celebrating your wins? Big or small, we need to celebrate them all. Think about it. What did you do last week that you're proud of? Meaning, I'm growing my business. I'm growing my business. That's what we want to do. So take a look back at the last week. Take a look back at the last month. Take a look back at the 6 months. My point is, we need to make sure that we're doing all the things we can. So those are the things we're helping our team grow. Don't just survive in real estate, guys. Thrive. I encourage you to reach out, schedule a one-on-one. There's no obligation. Just let's have a conversation. Let's take a look under the hood. So anyway, super excited. We've got a great lineup for you guys today. Thanks for letting me go on for just a few minutes about that. But our first guest, I'm super, super excited. This guy is probably the best looking guy in the real estate business, first things first. But Anthony has been helping us with all of our home warranty needs. So I want to bring Anthony on as our spotlight guest. Anthony, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really well, thank you, and I appreciate the comment. That was really good.
Well, you know what? You've I remember when we first sat down, you and my brother and I, you took us to lunch and we are hanging out. And I said, you don't need to go to lunch. I like you. Let's just give you business. But I appreciate that anyway. So let's tell the audience, first of all, who's Anthony?
Yeah, so I'm actually, I'm a California kid. I'm from a really big, I'm from a small town, big family. And so really what I learned just kind of growing up and what I bring to my business is basically who I am my entire life is, I just love to help people. I love to be a bright spot to people's bad day, how cliche that is. And I truly just enjoy winning. I'm a former athlete, college baseball. So competitiveness is in my DNA and, just going about it every single day. So
I love it. I love it. So let's do this. Let's dive into a little bit about, let's tell us about HWA. Tell us about your home warranty brand and what's going on there.
yeah, absolutely. So, big news actually. We just got rated by US News and World Report as the #1 home warranty company in the nation. So, things are looking real good for us. When I first started about 3 years ago now, and why I joined the company was just the way that the CEO and my regional manager were discussing how we want to help people and grow the business and stay true to home warranty and taking care of people, So, there's a lot of companies out there that they have multiple avenues. They can do NHD, they do title, they do escrow, they do all these different things. We're strictly home warranties. So we're all about plugging back into our business in home warranty and making sure that we're making improvements, adjusting our plans. We adjusted our plans every couple of years. We're coming out with a new plan in 2026 to be a little bit more competitive, even more so. So things are being great. And, we're doing about 88% of our claims, just like we have been the last couple of years, just taking care of people and actually coming through with paying out on claims and making them have a happy success story.
I love it. I love it. In closing, let's tell the audience. Well, go ahead and put your information in the chat box. But tell them just a real quick snapshot of what you can do for help agents grow their business.
Absolutely. So the way that not just me, but the way you can use your home warranty rep or all vendors that you guys use that are post closing is that's what we handle. Is post closing. You're giving passing these keys off to buyers or sellers, and you're kind of done with that at that point once the transaction closes. But you still have a homeowner in there that can still go through some distress. And so for the whole 13 months, even if they renew, I don't do renewals, but I still am in their customer service rep. And so I handle not just education, providing value to not just my agents, but the actual homeowner itself, letting them know what's included, what's not included, what their cap coverages are, what they're, should expect as well. And number one thing I do is I believe is a homeowner setup call. So just hopping on the phone with them as an intro, walking them through their program and making sure that they know everything that's going on, but that they can call me directly with a claim.
I love it. Well, you know what? Thanks for being the spotlight today. I tell you what, guys, if you're not satisfied with your home warranty, give Anthony a call, man. I tell you what, he hits it out of the park for us. And Anthony, thank you so much.
Of course, appreciate you
And
guys.
and stick around if you can. We'll have our panel discussion for Q&A at the end.
Absolutely, will do.
Excellent. We're going to go ahead and get to our next guest, Tim Yates. This guy right here is he's a beast. He was our featured special guest last week, but we literally have put together some tools that we're going to help our agents take their business to the next level. And I had to get him in here. I had to get him back on because our conversation that we had from last Wednesday till today has been fire. So Tim, let's tell the audience, first of all, let's tell everybody who you are real quick. And then second, let's jump into tell us what the tool is that we're offering our agents that are listening to this.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I just noticed I need to update my picture because I've lost about 5 or 6 more hairs since that photo was taken. It's a little shinier now. I'm noticing that now. I don't like this camera stuff too much.
That's funny.
um, well, anyways, thank you for allowing me to be here. I appreciate this opportunity. I love talking to people about what we're doing because what we're doing is something that is very unique in the industry. It's very exciting. As you know, I've had one foot in the real estate industry and one foot in the legal industry really for the past 20 years now. It's crazy how fast things are going. And what I've been able to do is kind of blend the two industries in a way to create some fantastic opportunities for right now for California real estate professionals. The goal eventually is to expand it in multiple states, but right now we're just talking about California. And what this opportunity is, it's helping real estate professionals get an LDA designation attached to their signature line. What this designation is going to allow real estate professionals to do now is to offer estate planning services to their clients. It's going to help generate an entirely new revenue stream, for them. And also it's going to help separate themselves literally from their competition and gobble up more market share. As you know, here in California, only about 12.7% of all homeowners have their homes in a trust. Think about that, 12.7%. That means if I'm an agent and I'm farming a community of, let's just keep the math simple because I don't want to get into a calculator, 100 homes. Out of those 100 homes, 87 of them don't have their homes in a trust. That's going to give me an opportunity to talk to these individuals now in a way that I normally couldn't if I was just trying to talk to them about buying or selling. Okay, so this program is going to be a game changer. The great part about it too, as you know, is we're not here to sell anything. There's no cost associated with joining in the program. We're not trying to upsell or do any sales whatsoever. It's about offering this opportunity. Again, zero cost to join the training program. You'll actually have an opportunity to receive income while you're in the training program itself. The training program, as you know, it's literally one 60-minute Zoom session a month. So it's not a time commitment. It's not going to take you away from what you're already doing with your existing business. And really to summarize it, it's simple. It's a compliant way to add real value to your existing business and build long-term relationships well beyond just receiving a commission check.
You know what?
That's it.
I think that's I think you had me at commission check. Not sure, but I think that's awesome. I think the only, and the thing that I like the best about it, we're already doing this. We're already reaching out to buyers, sellers, and investors. We already have family members that we're going to reach out to and talk about real estate. This is one more thing. And if anything else, I'm telling you what, if you don't have a living trust, that a lot of bad things can happen. So my point is, we're already having the conversation. So Tim, this is awesome. Go ahead and put your information in the chat box, and we'll share that with the folks on our on the podcast so we can get that out to them. So Tim, thank you so much, and stick around. We'll do the panelist roundtable as soon as we're finished here, and it's going to be awesome. I appreciate you. So let's go into our next speaker. This is my lender. He's awesome, and he has actually done my daughter's and my son's loan. And like Anthony actually did my daughter's home warranty, and he did, I think he did my son's home warranty. So, I mean, this is fantastic having this great group on. So Richie, let's get to you for the Mortgage Minute.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. Does everyone on here want lower rates? Okay.
Yes.
I've been waiting like 3 years for something to happen, and it's just been holding stagnant. But I can't predict the future, but we're really starting to get some news that relief might be coming. Fed Governor Waller, who is one of the most respected voices at the Fed, he came out strongly in favor of a rate cut at the July 30th meeting. He's warning that if they wait for labor data to crack, it'll be too late. And that echoes what many of us have all been feeling over these recent months. Now, I don't think it's going to happen July 30th, but it's nice to hear a very respected member come out and publicly state these things. At the same time, we have a tariff deadline looming August 1st. So the Commerce Secretary is saying that that date is firm. And if no deals are made, we're looking at 30% tariff baseline, especially with Europe. So that could slow the economy and the activity, which would put more pressure on the Fed to cut. So when we look at a nationwide average across all loans, rates have slightly ticked down to 6.75 as an average. we're seeing purchase applications rise slightly up. They're up 22% year over year, 3% this week. So if this trend continues, and if we get rate cuts here in the near future, we could see buyers jump back in. We've got a very short window for buyers here. So that's where we are pushing a big push right now, where while rates are softening, but uncertainty is high, if you're a listing agent, we can attract more buyers with creative strategies like seller paid rate buy downs instead of price cuts. And then on the other side, if you've got buyers on the fence, now's that time to run numbers before we get a market shift. I think that might have been 60 seconds, Robert.
You know what? That was power. And Richie, thank you for that. I tell you what, there's a lot of conversations about rates and the Fed chairs and this, that, and the other thing. And it's always nice to have the Mortgage Minute provided by Richie Sorensen, PRMG. You're the man. I appreciate you, brother. Make sure you get your contact information into the chat box. So thank 100%. You, and stick around for our speaker panel, and it's going to be fantastic. So thank you for jumping on. With that said, the moment we've all been waiting for. I'll have Tim do the drums. I tell you what, we've had some great guys. I want to thank Tim, Anthony, and Richie for jumping on and spending a few minutes with us. But our next guest is just a power player. We're going to dive into. It's just going to be a conversation. But I want to bring this quote up first. This is something my dad gave to me when I first got in the business in 1986. It was February 14th, 1986. And February 13th, I had to sit down with my mom and my dad. And we sat down and we talked about, I didn't know what to expect. I had no clue, man. I had none. And my dad says, give a man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And I had no clue what that meant. And he tried to explain it to me, and it just never made sense until after a while, I started hearing that over and over and over. And it's like, wait a second, teach me how to do something. We're going to be great. And that's when I started coaching and training others. And that's what we're here to do today. That's what we're here to do in this mastermind. We're here to train, coach, and mentor others, be a resource. So with that said, I want to bring on my next guest, somebody that I do a lot of, I share the stage with this young man here for multiple times. He's just been a blessing to my business. And Ben Barber is going to talk about taking more corporate listings. We're going to stop sharing the screen. We're going to have a conversation, and we're just going to go dive in. We're going to deep dive into some really good stuff. So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to introduce you to Ben Barber. Ben Barber, can you see me? Can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks for having me here, man. I'm excited. It's always good to connect with you. Like I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, super stoked. So let's just dive right into it. Let's go into the speaker gallery. Ben, tell the audience. And by the way, thank you for being so patient and listening to some of the other speakers come on. And we really appreciate you being on. Let's dive right into it. Who's Ben Barber?
Oh, man, that's such a good question. And it's funny because I'm actually, I'll define that for you. But first, I want to just compliment you and what you're doing for agents here. I heard this thing years ago before I even started selling homes. Rogers Healy. I was working out with him in Dallas, and he is a huge agent in Dallas, Texas. And he had this philosophy about being sticky. That's what he called it. He's like, you want to be sticky. If somebody needs a roof replaced, come to me. If somebody has a credit issue, come to me. You want everybody coming to you. So this panel that you put together allows agents to be sticky. I've got a title guy. The majority of buyers that I worked with were first-time home buyers, and they have a lot of fears. They don't want to take on this financial responsibility. Well, I got a home warranty guy that's going to take care of all this for you. Being sticky. So I love your panel guests. It's fantastic all the way through. But me in a nutshell is I have been involved in real estate. I was chuckling earlier when you talked about your time frame, because I remember you saying multiple times, going and developing pictures and pasting them to BPOs. And I remember printing out BPOs and going through and scrubbing them and not completing them in the system. So I started my journey into real estate back in 2008, right as the market was crashing. And it just was a really good fit. Like I was an asset manager. Actually, I was pre-list. My whole job was just to call agents and try to convince them to give me a valuation for free in exchange for a future listing someday. Some would do it, some wouldn't. We're tracking it all just on a spreadsheet, but it was just something that just fit. It just made sense to me. Valuing properties across the country just made sense. Strategies just made sense. And so I was with that company for 4 years and literally did everything. Pre-marketer, asset manager, senior asset manager, sales manager. At one point, the eviction department was broken. So not knowing anything about it, they handed me the eviction department that had 2,400 assets. And within 6 months, we turned it around and it was incredibly efficient. Then I moved to Dallas, worked with VRM for 3 years as an operations manager when they took over the VA account. So helped them build out their workflow through VRM Co, which is a junk system, but it still at least gets the job done. But I did that before my wife and I moved back to Salt Lake City, Utah. So we had 2 kids at the time. We had a 4-year-old, we had a 2-year-old, and we were getting ready to have our 3rd baby, and we just didn't want to be so far away from family. So we decided that we were going to go back to Salt Lake, but we didn't know what to do as far as jobs. And I wasn't really sure I wanted to work for anybody else. I'd been doing the operations side for so long. So we just, went all in, became real estate agents. And my first full year, I sold 52 homes in 2016, won the Rookie of the Year, became the number 5 agent for Coldwell Banker. And then from there, it was just kind of like broker hopping for a while. Went over to Realty One and won their top award, the Pinnacle Award. I was the Coldwell Banker President's Elite 3 times in a row. And then finally found home at EXP, and I was an EXP icon in 2022. Then I ran into burnout. A lot of people run into burnout. And I was on something similar to what we're doing here. And Mark Woodling, who has become a good friend of mine since, was doing a presentation on SFRs. And it really connected with me because I had such a deep REO background and had sold over 11,000 REO properties for the banks. I'd valued over 40,000 properties. I can peg a value anywhere in the country within $1,000 of an appraisal. So it was a great experience, but it was in my wheelhouse, and I always thought they were the next step. Like one of our business, when my wife and when I was full-time in production, one of our biggest strategies was rent to own from home partners. We did roughly $30 million of acquisitions for these, and we figured out a niche of having people get into these homes that they may be able to purchase in the future, but they're an acquisition agent. So as Mark's talking through, it was just connecting, like that's the future of real estate. Like if people don't have this set up, then they're going to have some lean times coming up. And it just so happened that they needed somebody to come in to help build out their workflow and their systems. And it just aligns with me. Like that's what I do. I go into systems and build workflows. And Mark has since left the company since I came into the Revenos division. But even after he left, 3 months ago, I was in Dallas with him, and the company he's with just acquired $300 million in funding for acquisitions. And so we just sat down and he said, how do I do this workflow? How do I get this out to agents? How do we qualify these properties? So in a nutshell, what I am is, yes, a ton of experience selling homes personally, a ton of experience selling for banks. But more than anything, I'm a strategist for agents. Like what's broken in your system? How do we bring in new sources? How do we manage those, meet and exceed expectations? And how do we leverage those to continue growing our business, basically?
I dig it. I tell you, it's a whole nother world, the corporate world. And I was telling my wife Carla the other day, because I started in the REO space in the early 90s, the whole stay alive till 95. That was the glue stick era that you and I were chatting about.
The glue stick, yeah.
I'd run out and do the photos, go to the 1 hour photo, get them, wait for them to be developed, go to the office, glue stick them up on the legal paper, and then get them to typewriter and that whole thing. So I found that I really do well with the corporate seller. Fannie, Freddie, the 44 different banks I was working with, relocation. And that's why Revenos is such a tool, such a great tool for us agents. Let's dive into some of the Revenos things we got going on.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm so glad you made that transition there, because when you look at it, like you were talking about doing your seller presentation on Zoom, and I never did I never had a printed presentation. I just always talked to people, and that always worked. But if you look at it, I mean, there's a ton of effort that goes into acquiring that seller lead, and there's follow-up and there's presentations and things like that. But once you get into the corporate side, it's essentially one presentation that feeds you over and over and over again. And that's what Revenos does. So when I'm saying corporate, we used to call it institutional, but we started losing some people on that terminology. So you just have to think of it as anybody that owns more than 1,000 homes. That's the best way to look at it, or facilitates the sale of over 1,000 homes. So Robert said early on, your lowest hanging fruit, short sales. Well, the next one is REO. So the banks, the credit unions that have taken properties back, that's a corporate or institutional seller. We'll get into it more, but to your point, the beauty of working with them is that once they find you and they like you, you're not calling them every single month and saying, let me show you my new listing presentation. You're just doing your job. Did you do a good valuation? Did you get your tasks done on time? Are you managing that property? And if you are, Robert can attest to this, they'll just keep feeding you. They'll call and say, hey, Robert, I've got 30 homes. Can you take them? And he'll say, absolutely. And he goes to work. So it's that machine that just keeps feeding you over and over again. But then you'll also have relocation. I think people miss out on this. The average money spent on a relocation is upwards of $80,000. And you have 16, something like, what was the number? 16 million families that at some point have to move. So like we're talking about rates, right? We went into the rate situation, and rates are a big deal unless you absolutely have to move somewhere for a job. And then it's not. Then the issue is, what's the best seller concessions? Can I buy that rate down and then look for refinance in the future? Because if I have to be across the country in Florida, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to keep renting. I'm going to go buy. So if I have to take a hit now, I'll do it with a strategy to exit. And that's where we come in. So that's your first one, is your banks. It's your REO stuff. It's not really big right now, but this is what we ran into in 2008. Robert probably didn't experience this because he was already positioned. But once 2008 hit and it was starting to hit people's radar that this is coming, when they started trying to get in 2011 and 12, we already had our agents. It was the people we've been working with, and we just loaded them up. I thought we would see an REO boom when COVID hit. When all of a sudden nobody's working and people aren't paying their mortgages, I thought out of nowhere that was going to happen. And that's what you have to be prepared for. If people could not buy homes today, could you still help them buy homes? And that's where institutions come in, because either homeowners aren't going to be able to buy and now the bank needs to liquidate and you can list those, or these big institutional companies like Invitation Homes, Tricon, Home Partners of America, American Home for Rent, they come in and they say, home prices are down. I need to spend $300 million. Who do you have? And then you're collecting 1%, helping them facilitate all of these deals. So there's a Taco Bell philosophy, right? Like where you're going to sell 1 million tacos and make a penny as opposed to making $1 and selling less food. That's the play when you get into the corporate world, is you are going to do a lot of work, but you're going to make a less commission for a higher volume. But if you're a smart agent, it's just a strategy. I want to do everything I can to get an attractive property, to get a vacant home that's been updated in a desirable area in the price point for most buyers. And then I go to work with my open houses, like you were saying, drive people in, and now I'm feeding that pipeline. I want to go do door knocking and circle prospecting. I want to promote the house on YouTube and on all of my social media. And I want to blow this up to just be my lead machine that just keeps bringing in traditional business. So I know that was a lot. Sorry, I told you. That's why I didn't do the screen share, because I would have been clicking through things while we were talking there. But
this is fantastic, man. Ed. And that's what it's all about. It's about having a conversation. So what do we want to say to the agents that might be tuning into this, how they can get positioned getting corporate business? Like, for example, when I was doing the REO space, you hit the nail on the head. The folks that came in after 2008, that was a struggle. They're riding the struggle bus trying to get in because they've already had relationships in place. We're getting 50, 60 listings a week, having 384 active listings in the MLS at one time. That's a big deal. It's a big business. Will it be like that again? I don't know. A jury's out. I don't think so. But I do know this: they're going to rear their ugly head in different ways. So what do we want to say to the agent that is tuning in that says, I want to get into corporate sales? What are the steps that you would suggest to them?
Perfect question. So the first thing I would do is I would look at what already aligns with your existing business. If you're generating leads off of YouTube and you're working with a lot of people that are moving from out of town, then the simplest path for you is to work with relocation companies. You have a footprint, you have experience, you have metrics, and Robert said you should be documenting everything. Fortunately, the MLS documents a lot of stuff for us. So we can turn around and we can say, here's my average days on market, my list price, my sale price to list price. But you go after the relocation companies first, because that fits your brand and people will start searching for you. If you're someone that loves fixing properties yourself, you do a lot of door knocking, that's acquisitions, because you're uncovering off-market opportunities. And to Robert's point earlier, even if you employ this as a strategy, you may not actually get a corporate acquisitions because you're going to submit it and get a low cash offer. But what you did is just got the sellers to admit that they will sell. Like we had whenever I was doing cash for keys training, and we increased our cash for keys vacancy rate to like 78% at one point. And we came with a different philosophy. We basically said, I had everybody in the room. I said, and you guys can do this too. This is really fun. Everybody think about their house. And right now, if I came to you and I knocked on the door and I said, I will give you $1 million to move out of the house in 2 weeks, how many people would move? So no bank's going to give $1 million, and that doesn't matter. What we got them to do is to say, for the right price, I will move in 2 weeks. And then we just have to find what that right price is. So when you start acquiring acquisitions, you've got a seller that has now gotten off the fence and they've said, if the price is right, I'll do it. If it's not too much of a hassle, I'll do it. And that's all we need. We're going to either represent them on the acquisition to a corporation, or we're going to use Robert's strategies to come in and say, hey, their offer was ridiculous. Cash buyers tend to buy at 28% below market value when all is said and done. They may advertise that they're only buying for 10% less, but once you hit them with repairs, they're going to go lower. But now you bring in Robert's strategy to say, I know that didn't work, but how far away were we? How can we get there? What would it look like if we marketed on the MLS? And then you do the guarantee. Like I never focused on commissions. I would always bring it up. I get it. It's a small car. It's a lot of money. I understand 100%. And then I drove right to the net. But here's what I want you to focus on. You're going to walk away from this transaction with $196,000. If I can't get you that number, you are not going to pay me. So we can transition them there because they just told us our goal. So to get, I know that was a roundabout way to get into it, but number one is you first want to set yourself up so people can find you. So if you're doing your YouTube channels and you're bringing people in from out of state, you just want to make sure that your content is optimized as much as possible. You want to make sure that you have a profile on as many pages, like that your LinkedIn profile sends a consistent message that you're a relocation expert people to move in or out of your state. There are other places where you can go that are actual networking communities, and you could set up a profile there like Bigger Pockets, and that's where some people may go. But the number one thing you can do, and I'm glad this exists, but I'm also not glad. John Scalia, I'm sure you know John. Mm-hmm. John has been the number one agent for EXP forever. I don't know how long. But at one point, he sold over 1,100 homes by himself. And when people hear that, they say, there's no way. Well, I know John really well. And it is absolutely true. He has a team that may go get his photos for him. But this guy answers the phone and responds to emails every single time I call him. He's a total workhorse. But he could not do that if he was out making all these presentations every time. He's got to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm dumping 100 properties on you, or I need you to go buy 100 properties. That's how he does it. He got started with his biggest account at a bar. And when I first heard that, I was like, that's a good story. But I thought, how can you teach that to people? Like, go to the bar and hope you run into somebody that needs you to sell 100 properties for him? That's not realistic. But if you peel it back further, he was at a conference. And that's what I would tell people to do. You have to build your network. So whether you're building it on LinkedIn, like anybody that found me on LinkedIn, the majority of my connections are all in the REO world. They're asset managers, VPs, directors. That's a way to start. And then you start posting your own stuff and engaging in their posts, and you build that connection so that when they need something, they reach out to you. But you can also attend events. Like you can attend 5-Star in Dallas. That's all just an REO conference, and you're meeting asset managers. And you find, Robert knows this, it's a small world. Man, when I worked at Green River, when I had agents I loved working with because I knew I could trust them. When I went to VRM, if those agents weren't in the system, that was my first call. Hey, you got to go get your application in here right now because I need you on this new VA account. So the networking is incredibly powerful, going to events. But the point of John's story was to say that it wasn't accidental because he was in the right place. Like I think it was Richard Brunson, the entrepreneur from Virgin. He has a quote that says, it's amazing that the harder I work, the luckier I get. Because people say, you're so lucky. And people could look at John and they could say, oh, you're so lucky you were in the bar at that time. He could say, yeah, that could be true. I also had great history going into it as a residential real estate agent. I was at the conference. I had built up my skill set to know how to talk to people and have a conversation and be a chameleon and mirror what they're doing and model their behavior so they'll connect with me faster. So the harder he works, the luckier he gets. And so that's what I would do. You have to start building your network, build your connection. Attending things like this helps because we may have somebody in Florida that has never done an institutional deal, but because they're now part of this network, we can get an assignment, or you probably get calls from people all the time saying, hey, I need this BPO in this area. Who do you know? You kick it out to them, and that's how you get started. And then your job as the agent is to be prepared to know what to do once you get that BPO, how to deliver it, how to complete it, how to get it done on time. One last one, because I know that was a long stuff I was talking on that, but like I went to IMN about 18 months. Well, I guess it was about a year ago. It was in Houston. IMN is basically, they have a whole bunch of different functions, but one of them in Houston specifically was for these big corporations that had started doing these. It's called a BTR community, a build to rent community. So you drive by and you see like 32 townhouse style homes with a community center, a pool. they're all rentals. That's all an institution. That's a real estate investment trust that has come in and said, I'm buying all these and I'm just going to rent them. And it was, they were just talking about different strategies, how to grow that business, how to do these different things. And to give you guys an idea of how big this business is, it is a $4 trillion business. There are places in like Atlanta, 25% of all single family homes in Atlanta are owned by an investor. Well, what happens if legislation comes through and passes a law that says, as an investor, you can only own X amount of properties and they have to liquidate? Who are they going to call? Like, they're going to call us because we know what to do with them. But at that conference, I met with the CEO of Intera that manages dispositions. I was at dinner with the president of Tricon that just sold to Blackstone. They were in the middle of negotiating a Blackstone deal for, $3.2 billion to pick up 3,800 of Tricon's homes. I was with the VP of Open Door. And so those connections, and you would think, well, maybe you're invited in those circles. No, it's just there's not a lot of people there. There's a lot of big hitters and not as many attendees. You want the FaceTime, you want the handshakes, you want to meet somebody there. Hey, I just, like Mark Woodling knows everybody. But if I didn't know Mark and I met him at a conference, great, Mark, great to meet you. And then I go right to LinkedIn, I make a connection with him, and then I start nurturing that relationship. And then it will start paying out. And then the very lowest hanging fruit to get started is just understand who's in your area that owns homes in your areas, go to their websites and apply directly. That's it. Just apply strategically. Like, this is my last soapbox, and I'll get off it. One of the biggest excuses agents make about getting into the corporate world is they say, I've never done that. I don't have stats. I don't know how to go in and get them. There are ways to position your resume when applying for these. If you have sold one home or two homes, that's great. You can build stats because these guys are all data driven. They're non-emotional. They look at days on market, days under contract. They look at original list price to final list price, original concessions to final concessions. They look at all of these things. Well, you can do that with one sale. If I sold a house down the street, I can give you my stats, but I don't say, oh, my experience, I sold one home. I say, in Davis County, my average days on market is boom. My average list price is this. My average sale to list is this. And I can do it all with just one transaction, right? And then I leverage the power of my team to say, we've sold 300 homes. Here's my results. So that's kind of a bigger conversation, but there's ways to do it. There's a ton of ways to do it. Get in.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. That's why I like corporate sales, is because it's non-emotional. It's a faceless bank I'm working with in most cases, or faceless. And it's just more of a get it done. Like when somebody says, how's the clock built? I don't necessarily care. I just want to know what time it is. And that's why I like corporate sales. Man, I tell you what, that was huge. And that's the reason why we started this MORE Listings Mastermind, Ben, to begin with. I'm looking, because I get those calls all the time. I had a call, hey, Robert, who do you have in Dover, Delaware? I'm like, I don't have anyone in Dover, Delaware. But I get it all the time because I put myself out there. I want to be sticky with my clients, and I want to let them know I have agents all over the country. You just tell me where you need them, and I will get them for you, and I'll refer you somebody that will hit it out of the park, so they know they can count on me. Yep. Obviously, they can count on me for my market, San Diego, Southern California area, but I want to be an all-time resource. So I'm so glad you hit that. That's why we started this, because that's how I get to know agents from all over the country. So in closing, Ben, because then we want to go to a Q&A, what would we like to say to the agents to get them fired up about the real estate business? What's your closing message you'd like to share?
Oh, man, that is a great question. That is a great question. I would say that now is the time to refine your system. But first, I would say this. Stop with your limiting beliefs. Stop with your guilt language, I call it. If you ever make a list and you say, I should do something, stop that language. That's a guilt language. I should contact my network. I should prospect. It's guilt, and you'll feel guilty and you won't do a thing. Change it to, if I really wanted to, I could. If I really wanted to, I could go door knocking, because it changes the way that you look at it, because you're answering it differently. Well, why don't I go door knocking? Well, it's hot and I hate the sun. I hate knocking on doors. Great. Maybe there's a better strategy for you. So when I talk to agents, I say the most important thing right now is define your processes, because if you don't write them down, they don't exist. If they don't exist, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. So define your processes so that you can see where to improve, and then start looking at your strategies. And I think that the big thing is just saying, what do I want to do? What do I want my business to look like 5 years from now? Because where I said that it's not a good market, it's not a bad market, it's not. If sellers are having a hard time letting go, I'm targeting acquisition buyers. If it is that, if it's the complete opposite and the home prices are through the roof, I'm going after the big institutional sellers. So they're trying to increase their cash flow and let go of things. So it would just be man, that was a good question. I know I'm all over the place. I would say, how about I say this? Let's define to this. Start being intentional about your business. Stop reacting and start running your business. Stop going where the phone call takes you and intentionally set up, like Robert said. I'm going to do 90 minutes of lead generation now. How do I fit that in my schedule? Make it mandatory, make it non-negotiable, make it a priority, and start looking at your business like that, intentional.
That's huge. That's a good place to stop. And I definitely want to do a recap of Ben 2.0 at some further date. But I tell you what, I thank you, man, for being on here. Any other nuggets you'd like to share with the group before we go to our Q&A panel?
I'm worried about it because I just start talking and then I had started making like these little lists of things, but this is one thing I would want to share that hits in. 48% of real estate agents never follow up with a lead more than once. And the average lead converts between 7 and 12 touches. So there are people that are just waiting for you. And I coach with a different platform, and we deal with hesitancy all the time. With a system, I use Tim Ferriss's quote that says, the imperfect path you'll follow is better than the perfect plan that you won't. So stop waiting for things. Like you may say, I'm going to go contact a corporate seller, but I'm going to sound like an idiot. Who cares? Go to this event and trip all over yourself. It doesn't matter. Don't let these reservations prevent you from building the momentum, right? Like you have to be intentional, focus, take action. I think that's number one. Don't be a serial learner. Action. Do something. When you hear something that connects, run with it.
I love it. That was powerful. So let's do this. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Richie, for jumping on and making this just a powerful session. I always like to end off with just a little bit of Q&A. But Tim, Anthony, and Richie, go ahead and unmute yourself. And let's if you have a question for one of our speakers, I'd love to hear it. We've got some great stuff. We've got just a few more minutes. Let's open it up for some Q&A.
Hey, Robert, I got a quick question here. Sorry, my camera's off. I'm getting ready for a listing appointment. But okay. I got a question for Ben really quick. For someone for someone that's just getting into the business as far as the REO space, right? I remember when I first started doing BPOs and doing cash for keys and all that crap. A lot of these agents that just get into this business don't have the financial means of backing for as far as a trash out or anything like that. What would you suggest an agent do if they're just starting in this business and getting started in REO space?
Yeah, great question. So if it became an issue, I would partner with the right people that did have more of the means. But what we have seen is that in 2008, you did have to have roughly $2,500 per asset or listing you were going to have. You had to verify those funds because that's really what it would typically take, and you'd get reimbursed, but you'd have to front the money. We're seeing now, it started with cash for keys. It's rolled over into trash outs that a lot of these banks and institutions, they're managing that themselves. So you may be on the line for, marketing photos that you may or may not get reimbursed for. They may ask you to take care of a repair to speed things up, but it's probably going to be under $1,000. But I would also say that if that is an issue, because those are long-term plays, the reimbursement process is not quick, not for everybody. I would almost say go with a different strategy if you were worried about that, because you shouldn't be stressed about getting that money back. I know Robert's probably had a lot of money out. I don't know his exact number, but I know Josh Smith at one point had over $280,000 out in cash for keys advances and property repairs and things like that. But he was managing 300 plus Fannie Mae homes too at the time. So the true response is account for $2,500 per listing that you're going to handle. And if you don't have those funds, find a partner that does have that. If not, look at the companies and really you decide who you're going to work with, because the majority will fund them themselves. And if you're honest and transparent and you come back to them and say, hey, look, I can't facilitate that. They may not want to work with you, but most of them will say, yeah, it's fine. We'll process that through.
And you know what, Ben, to your point is we're at $133,000 at our tip point that every time it was out, because what would happen is we'd we want to keep producing business. So we paying the termite report, paying a rekey, paying these, and the little things, they add up. Yeah. And once you get reimbursed, you've got 2 or 3 right behind it. So it's that number never really goes down. But to your point also is a lot of companies I noticed as of late anyway, they're paying for all the expenses. They're saying, hey, you have a rekey guy, great, put him in contact with us so we can send it, get him an invoice, get it paid, get us the photos, get him what we need. Cash for keys is always going through eviction coordinator. So I'm seeing less and less in that. Yeah. But there are some banks that actually want you to check I have the financial wherewithal to work with you. And some of them even want your bank statements. Not all, very, very few, but most of them are very easy to work with. So that was a great question, Lawrence. Any other questions before we get these guys out of here? Because I want to go around the horn real quick and get a power close before. So who's got another question for why we have these great panels here?
Hi, how are you? This is Aisha from Georgia. I hope I'm not cutting in front of any.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I see someone's hand up. Yes, I just had a question about the, 2 questions. One about the open house, trying to get traffic to an open house. I recently got a listing that was on the market for a year. And, I'm holding an open house this Sunday. So I'm trying to, and this is my first listing with the company. So, of course, I'm trying to, be impressive and, get the house sold.
Here's my strategy for that is if you price it above market, you're going to get less traffic. You price it at market value, sure, you'll get more traffic, but when you price it below market, therefore you'll get a massive traffic, therefore you get a bidding war. So pricing is the key when driving traffic to your open house. Because remember, open houses, the number one goal for an open house is to drive traffic. So that's what I suggest. It's all pricing.
It's all pricing. We've actually done 2 like good giveaways, to have something where in Utah we have winter and summer basically only. So win a 4-pack of season passes to Lagoon in the summer, win ski tickets in the winter. And of course, make sure that you're following all the right rules. But then that's where you can partner with your home warranty company. Like we have Anthony here. They can pitch in on that. Your lender can pitch in on that. You guys co-brand, do all that stuff. That's how I would do it to drive that. And kill it. Make it annoying as can be. As many signs and balloons. We've had hot dog trucks and snow cone trucks for the kids, like free snow cones, free hot dogs. Give away $100 worth of hot dogs to drive traffic in.
Yeah, so there's that. So there's lots of good ways. So thank you for your question. Go ahead with your next question. You got your hand up?
Soft. Yeah, I know. You're probably trying to figure out how to say my name.
That's
I was
no worries,
Robert
and Ben.
Yeah,
my apologies. I came in a little late. I had another meeting, but I really wanted to figure out like these resources. Like, I haven't done any, repossessions. I actually bought one for myself personally during 2012, and that's kind of how I got into this. My agent became my sponsor at EXP when I became an agent. So I want to learn about it just from the other side, from the agent side. And just really getting started. I mean, maybe you mentioned the resources for this, but like, who are the companies that I target? Like, how do I approach these? Like you said, getting noticed and having like a kind of like a resume, you can show people this is what I'm doing, but who am I reaching out to? What are these companies that you said, some relocation companies, who are they and how do they find out about me? Yeah,
it's a great question. So since you're EXP, make sure that you are filling out your application for Revenos and doing the certification. You can do internal or relocation certification. With the division that I'm over, you can't do that until you go to EX. Like we're going to do it live at EXPCon. So you can go get certified for the REO group and for the institutional referrals that we generate. But also within your area, you could do a couple things. You can go to your title company and get a list of absentee owners, and you're going to look for, the names on there because they Institution Homes may buy it as Institution Homes, CA or a different state. So they're going to have different entities that own these. But even just start doing some of the searches online, like Progress Residential owns 85,000 homes nationwide. They do have a big footprint in California. And then you're just going to their website. And a lot of them do have something on their website that says, agent, join us. Like they're constantly looking to grow their agent network. So That's what I would do. But for the relocation stuff, make sure you're taking advantage of Revenos. Like the Revenos division, I think is the coolest thing that anybody's put together. It's just you have a whole team of people that their job all day is to connect these corporations, get these leads, send them out to you. So make sure you're filling those out.
Great.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Appreciate
and
that.
thanks for jumping on. Any other questions before we let everybody get back to prospecting? Going once, going twice. Thank you guys for jumping on. We're going to stop our recording. We will stay on for a little bit of after session Q&A. But thank you so much for jumping on. Anthony, Ben, Tim, Richie, thank you guys for jumping on. Lawrence, Coach Lawrence, everybody, just appreciate your time. Hope you got some value. That's really what it's all about. Remember, we meet every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. You can go to morenowlistings.com. I'm your host, Robert Weichelt. It's been a pleasure. Ben, thanks for being my special guest today. You guys are awesome. And I'll stop recording and we'll talk again soon.
Hey, that was fun, man.